Top of the hour, let's continue talking about the war in West Asia, which has now completed a month, but there still seems to be no signs of any de-escalation. Now what is being said that the Gulf leaders have held emergency talks. These meetings that have taken place between the representatives of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, that seems to have held a huddle in Jeddah. And the focus is on the current conflict and the call to avoid further escalation, as Iran has now termed, as far as when it comes to these strikes are concerned, to be very, very dangerous, because Iran has been continuing with its retaliation despite when it comes to a deadline that has been set by President Donald Trump. Let's connect with Eric right now. Eric, good evening to you. It's morning here in India, but we just want a better understanding as far as the statements that come in from President Trump, because as far as he seems to be issuing a warning, saying that the Strait of Hormuz should be opened and there are talks and dialogues that are happening. But all of these demands have been called out by Iran, saying that we are having no talks or discussions whatsoever. And we have a separate set of demands if the U.S. is willing to fulfill them.
Well, it appears that we're continually hearing reports coming out of Pakistan that they are still trying to facilitate these mediation talks. We're not real sure what the fruit that is being produced from that yet. It does seem like Iran is really not cooperating that much if these talks are happening. President Trump did seem to put out what I thought was a pretty reasonable 15-point bullet of asks from the Iranian government. It didn't seem like anything was too outrageous in those 15 points. But Iran, from what we hear, rejected that offer. So we're back at square one, which is why I think we've seen an increase of missile strikes. Actually
engaging with in talks with Iranian leadership, because President Trump says that they've neutralized the Iranian leadership. So who exactly is the U.S. talking with?
Right. So it may be a situation where we're not real sure who the exact leadership is. We think that there may be a couple different factions of leadership going on in Iran right now. They definitely have a problem keeping their leadership alive. So it seems like there's maybe a shift happening amongst the Iranian leadership of what is left of it. So it's hard to tell who we're actually talking to. They've kept that very close wraps as far as who they're actually talking to. Pakistan's not telling us either. So it's something that we just have to trust that is happening.
No, but Iran has called out on Pakistan, saying that as far as its initiative is concerned, Pakistan itself is responsible, because that does not state the official Iranian position of any talks or initiation of any dialogue that seems to have happened. So Iran has been rejecting in all fronts.
Yeah, and Iran is going to reject. I'm not expecting Iran to cooperate with any kind of negotiation talks. I think this is just an olive branch that President Trump throws out there and says, hey, we want to negotiate. If you want to, it's here. If not, we're going to keep blowing up your infrastructure. So I think that's where we're at. We know Iran is not going to come to the negotiation table with anything legitimate. So the attacks will continue.
Yes, it seems like that, because all of the other options as far as Iran's energy and oil infrastructure is concerned, because President Trump had previously said when the attacks happened on the Karg Island, saying that he is willing to reconsider his option when it comes to previously the oil and energy infrastructure was spared. However, he had stated that it could be hit by these strikes where Iran, according to him, will have to face hell. Let's in the meantime also talk about, as Eric continues to be with us, and we also have Shinjoy on the broadcast, because Iran has now called Saudi Arabia to, have a brotherly relationship between them. This is the foreign minister of Iran. There have been long-standing hostilities between the two countries. But the main message, because this is what President Trump has also admitted, because they were taken by surprise when it comes to the Iranian retaliation that was carried out in the Gulf region, in the Gulf areas, which hosts American military bases, but also on civilian infrastructure that has been hit consistently by Iran. So here is what Iran is of the point of view, saying that you should remove the so-called shield of American protection, because nobody is going to help you out over there. And they have been urging the Gulf nations to, when it comes to the exit of the American troops, because that they believe is still when it comes to their brotherly nation, that relationship will remain intact. So this is the foreign minister of Iran saying that Iran respects the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and considers it as a brotherly nation. Our operations are aimed at the enemy aggressors who have no respect for Arabs or Iranians, nor can provide any security. Just look what we did to their aerial combat. Well, Srinjoy, long-standing hostilities, will it now end? As far as brotherly relationship is concerned, it is a thing to say something, but the actions speak otherwise of Iran.
This brotherly relations statement is actually a new development, because in the past, the Iranians and the Saudis have not been very fond of each other. And now, in recent weeks, you have seen the attacks on Saudi installations. You've seen the attacks on the refineries. You've seen the attacks on military installations. All of that has happened in these few weeks. So also, the Saudis and the Americans have a very close relationship. In fact, most of these Gulf countries, Qatar, certainly Kuwait, the UAE, all of them have very close ties with the Americans. Bahrain, of course, where the Fifth Fleet is. So right now, to believe that all these Gulf states, these would suddenly say that no, because we've fought with, because Iran has attacked us and we are brothers, we will throw the Americans out. That's not going to happen. For a variety of reasons, economic, strategic, military, all of those reasons, it's not going to happen. But, well, it's very easy to say it, and the Iranians have said it, that yes, we are brothers, and we are in this together, and we should throw the Americans out, and so on. Now, over a long period of time,
yes,
the Americans have been in the Gulf states.
Yes.
So as a result, they are firmly entrenched there. Besides, Iran and Saudi Arabia, for decades, have not had a particularly good relationship.
Yes.
Now, if that is so, this war is not going to change things.
Yes.
It's going to actually reinforce this not so good relationship.
Absolutely, and
So,
attacked when unprovoked, because that seems to be the very status when we take a look as far as these Gulf nations in the region is also concerned. Multiple civilian infrastructure, oil refinery, energy facilities that have also been hit by Iran in retaliatory strikes. But there is another development there. Let's focus on that, because Canada now seems to be backing the Gulf allies amid the Iranian strikes. Now, here is their minister and leader, Anita Anand, who had visited Saudi Arabia, reaffirming support against Iran attacks, and has called that they had held talks with the Saudi foreign minister, and the focus is rather on long-term economic ties with Canada as they push forward the diplomatic engagement. So here is the picture that has been shared by her, and she says that over the past 2 days, I visited the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to reaffirm Canada's strong support for partners in the Gulf facing retaliatory attacks from Iran, and I also met with my counterpart to discuss strengthening long-term bilateral economic ties between our two countries, and a joint statement therefore has also been issued by the leaders there. But this is now coming at a time when there are relentless Iranian retaliatory strikes that still continue. So we saw those pictures that came in from a Kuwaiti water desalination facility where an Indian worker there was also killed. Now the news that has been coming in where a Kuwaiti oil tanker has been hit in a Dubai port. Now, the Petroleum Corporation has come out with a statement which says that the attack happened on when it comes to this crude oil tanker that was subjected to direct targeting by the Iranian aggression while it was in the anchorage and at the Dubai port in the Emirates, and the tanker that was believed to be fully loaded at the time of the incident, and the attack resulted in physical damage to the ship's hull and a fire breaking out on the board with the possibility of an oil spill in the surrounding waters. The Petroleum Corporation has also confirmed that there were no human casualties resulting from the incident, noting that work is underway to accurately assess the damage that has been incurred. And this confirmation that has also come in from the Dubai media office as well, because this is now a Kuwaiti oil tanker, a fully loaded oil tanker that has been hit in Dubai port. Now, this seems to be the relentless strikes on part of Iran that has now been carried out, and the Petroleum Corporation there has now also issued a statement saying that their oil tanker was targeted and was subjected to Iranian aggression while it was in the anchorage area of the Dubai port in the Emirates. So as far as oil tankers are also concerned, in the area, same area that what we are looking at, they too have been subject of Iranian strikes. And Dubai Media Office has in a way also confirmed that yes, this incident indeed has taken place, and the response teams have successfully extinguished the fire involving a Kuwaiti oil tanker, and relevant teams continue to assess the situation, and necessary measures and updates will be shared as and when they become available. So, Eric, what is your understanding through this? Because what we are looking at, because Iran has been very strategic when it comes to its retaliation and the strikes that it has been carried out. Yes, when it comes to military bases of America in adjoining countries, in the Gulf nations in particular, but key sites which hold energy, oil, infrastructure and facilities that are also being hit now, and Kuwaiti oil tanker has also been hit.
Yeah, so Iran is definitely playing an energy kind of monopoly sort of strategy, but they're going to overplay their hand on this. And this is why you're seeing countries like Canada start to enter on the anti-Iran side of things, because Iran is hurting the global market. At some point, you're going to see more countries take a stand against what Iran is doing in that region as far as not letting tankers get out and catching things on fire. That's going to further hurt the global market, and we're going to see these countries start to band together and say, how do we get Iran to stop doing this? How do we open up the Strait of Hormuz? How do we get the commerce flowing again? So I think they're going to overplay their hand, and eventually they're going to have the world breathing down their neck here pretty soon.
But there has been reluctance on part of the countries there, multiple countries which President Trump had actually, urged them to join and to send their escorts so that there is safe passage given to tankers that seems to be stranded at sea for over a month now, Eric. But, some countries who have been holding direct talks with Iran seems to be holding some positive results. But as far as for, America and its enemies and its allies, as Iran considers, the Strait of Hormuz continues to be blocked. We have seen several pictures that have now come in of oil tankers also being hit.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to happen. But like I said, eventually these countries are going to get desperate because they're not getting the transit that they need to their countries to continue to fuel their day-to-day operations. They're going to get the pressure from the people in their countries. They're going to be feeling that. Everybody has election cycles. Eventually, it's going to hurt polling, and it's going to translate to where these leaders are going to have to start making difficult decisions, whether or not to continue to stay neutral or to start to put pressure on Iran. Now, we are seeing with some of these groups that are coming together in these committees with Egypt and Pakistan and the Saudis, trying to get some kind of movement going on as far as some diplomatic answers to end this conflict. I don't know if Iran is going to be supportive of that or not. I don't know if they're going to listen to it.
Well, Iran seems to have already rejected that very opinion as far as any talks or negotiations, as they believe that they were the ones who were attacked when talks were actually taking place in Geneva. But is there a counterpoint of view, Srinjoy? Because who exactly, on whom are we looking at the pressure building? Because Eric says that multiple countries who have been affected because of the transit of their oil is not happening eventually would have to seek the help of United States. But is there pressure also building on President Trump? Because over a month and we are still looking at the Strait of Hormuz still being blocked.
It is entirely possible that when the war plan was made, the Strait of Hormuz issue was not looked at that clearly. Now the Iranians have made it into a weapon. Now this has become an effective weapon for the last 30 days. Now President Trump had asked the British, the French, the Germans, the Japanese, the Chinese, to everyone's surprise, the South Koreans, the Australians, to help in patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. None of them so far have agreed. Now, Canada, yes, has been very supportive of the Gulf states, but Canada, it's not widely known, is a huge producer of petroleum. shale oil primarily and natural gas. So that's something that has to be kept in mind. Now, how long the Strait of Hormuz is kept closed, what can be done to open it, diplomatically, militarily, remains to be seen. But so far, the Iranians have used the Strait of Hormuz. It's actually been their best weapon. If you think about it, they have no navy, they have no air force, they have no air defense, they have some missiles, they have some other drones.
Yes.
But they have the Strait of Hormuz. And so far, they have kept it closed because of geographical reasons.
Yes.
Now, we have to see what the Americans can do, what anyone else can do to keep it open. Diplomatically, militarily, we really have to see, because it's
well, an
not
option
very
of
difficult.
the U.S. Navy escorting those oil tankers, however, this still hasn't happened, because this seems to be the appeal that President of the United States seems to be making to other countries who are also affected to send in their forces as far as when it comes to clearing the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, because clearly it has now been turned into a weapon, and an effective one, by Iran. Eric, appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. Thank you very much for your time as well. But as far as the developments are concerned, we continue to focus on what is now coming next. Because now, as we just put out, that Iran has now, said and has called out Saudi Arabia to be a brotherly nation, and this is what happens next. The Amir Sultan Air Base in eastern Saudi Arabia, which actually hosts the U.S. forces, have now come under drone attack. Now, this seems to be, as far as the U.S. military assets that continue to remain under constant threats, because these are repeated strikes on part of Iran that has been taking place. And on one side, Iran says it considers Saudi Arabia to be its brotherly nation, and in the response in retaliatory strikes, well, when it comes to one of its air bases, which actually hosts the U.S. troops, that has been directly hit by Iran. Well, those seems to be the developments there. We'll get you more, lots more lined up on the other side of a very short break.